YouTube? It's your boy Dan, aka aDrive. I bring you guys our team builder and pregame press conference here for week 1 of the GBA. The St. Louis Rampardos are taking on the New Orleans Pelippers and John Pokemens, of course. Now, it has been a long time since me and John faced, but I'm very excited for our week 1 matchup here, trying out a brand new team, facing a pretty big team of threats that John has, and I hope you guys are hyped for the Rampardos to come back to the GBA and head smash our way to victory. Now, if you didn't see our team breakdown, I did a pretty in-depth team breakdown where I talk about our draft, why I picked the Pokemon I picked, and so on and so forth. So feel free to check that out in the description below. And if you're interested in picking up a St. Louis Rampardos t-shirt, those are also available in the description below. So definitely check that stuff out. And if you're hyped for week 1, of course, our matches are going to be posted every Sunday. Get some hype, man. Show some like on that like button down below. Show some love on that like button down below is what I'm trying to say. Man, it's been a while since I've done one of these team builders, but let's talk a little bit about John's team. I'm gonna break down my team and why I brought the team I'm bringing, and then we'll talk about the battle itself. So he's got a Tapu Bulu, which is just an insane offensive threat. Crazy with Choice Band. I could see him bringing a Scarf set this week as well. Hits incredibly hard with Wood Hammer. It's got grassy terrain in the League format. We haven't really seen how the Tapus function, but I'd imagine that they're going to function pretty powerfully because there's no way to control the terrain unless you have a manual terrain setter, which just isn't quite the same. So Tapu Bulu is actually probably one of the better ones for me to deal with, simply because its terrain benefits both of us in some regards with the healing part of it, but at the end of the day, he still gets that 50% grass boost, so with a Choice Band, he like one-shots everything. The good thing is it is a relatively slow Pokemon, so we should be able to play around it. He's got an Infernape, which is his Z Crystal user. Infernape is a very, very big threat, guys. It can run a number of different sets, especially offensive, physically offensive. It can be kind of a Stealth Rock setter. It can be a Sash Lead. It can do so many different things. He can run Priority. He can run Swords Dance, Nasty Plot. A lot of things that Infernape can do. In this particular matchup, I think he is going to run that Z Crystal. I think he's going to run Ground EMZ. He might try to run like Earthquake Ground EMZ. He might run some variant with HP Ice to try to catch my Gliscor off guard. There's a couple of things he can do, and I'm not exactly positive what he's going to do, but I'm pretty sure he's bringing Infernape, and I'm pretty sure he's bringing a Ground EMZ or Electro EMZ, one of the two, but I'm thinking it'll be the Ground EMZ because it does match up well against a lot of my team members, right? Hits Victini, hits Terrakion, it hits Steelix super effective, it hits obviously Toxapex, which is probably the biggest thing that I think he's going to really focus on with that Infernape. He's got a Skarmory, great hazard setter, Spikes, Stealth Rocks, gets to Defog, it can Whirlwind, it can do a lot of different things like that. Obviously, Steel typing, Brave Bird, Steel Wing, that kind of stuff. He's got a Jolteon, very fast, 130 base speed, very limited in terms of his move pool. He's likely going to have to run HP Ice, Shadow Ball, maybe Signal Beam, Thunderbolt, Volt Switch, somewhere in that range. Milotic, pretty standard. Most of the time, you're going to see Marvel Scale in League format, so he's probably got the Marvel Scale Milotic, rocking some sort of defensive variant with Recover, maybe Scald, Toxic, Ice Beam, something like that. He's got the Goodra. Goodra is actually an interesting Pokemon. It's very, very bulky. It's got a great special defense. It's got great coverage, great move pool, and definitely is a little slow, though, but he could run Sap Sipper on this thing to try to counter my Delmise or something like that. So we do have to be pretty careful around that. He's got a Porygon Z. Now, he cannot use Z moves on any other Pokemon aside from Infernape, so we know that. So we don't have to worry about Z conversion, which is banned anyway. But Porygon Z is still a threat. It can run Agility, it can run Nasty Plot, it can run like Scarf or Specs, so we do have to be very careful around that. He's got a Sneasel, which I wouldn't be surprised if he brought some sort of a Focus Sash variant because it can Pursuit Trap my Victini, so we do have to be very careful there. He's got an Uxie, which is a Stealth Rock setter, also just kind of a defensive Pokemon. Can be pretty good with Calm Mind, but it tends to not have enough move slots to really take advantage of the Calm Mind. He's got a Scolipede as well. That thing is a threat, dude. I had Scolipede in the NPA a couple seasons ago. And my goodness, guys, that thing wrecks, man. With a Life Orb, it just destroys things. Life Orb 3 attacks is like my favorite set, but also with like Protect, but he can't Baton Pass. So we don't have to worry about him baton passing out boosts like speed or Swords Dance boost, but nevertheless, Scolipede's really good. I'm expecting some sort of set with like Poison Jab, Earthquake, potentially Aqua Tail. He might run Mega Horn, but he's going to be missing a move slot there if you otherwise with Protect. So we'll see what he does there with the Scolipede. Very likely bring, and Sigilyph, which I know John loves Sigilyph because it's got Magic Guard, so you can run like Sash Sigilyph and not worry about Stealth Rocks and have it be just like a fail safe in case something sets up on you. So in terms of what I think he's going to bring, I feel really confident confident about Bulu, Infernape, Skarmory, Milotic. Those 4 feeling the thumbs up on. Really thinking that Scolipede is very likely as well, so I'm going to throw that into the mix. And then it's kind of a toss-up. I think Sneasel's possible. I think Jolteon's possible. I think Goodra's possible. I'm not too concerned about Uxie or Sigilyph, if I'm being totally honest. P2 is also a possibility, but I really feel confident in the fact that we're going to see that Bulu, we're going to see that Infernape, we're going to see that Skarmory, we're going to see that Milotic. I really think we're going to see Scolipede too, because I think it can match up well against my team. So let's talk about our team, man. The first team build. I'm excited, man. We got a very unique squad here. Definitely not the best team in the world, but we got some threats. There is no doubt about that. I drafted some threats this season, guys. Like, we have the threats, guys. We have the threats. So let's talk about our team here really quick. We are going to be kicking things off with Deborah here, Arkla, Fable, running max HP, a little bit of defense, a little bit of special defense, Thunderbolt, Moonblast, Stealth Rock, Soft Boiled. Was originally going to run Flamethrower to hit the Skarm and the Scolipede, but I felt like Thunderbolt hits the Skarm anyway, and also it gives me something to hit my Milotic a little bit harder. So I went with the Thunderbolts. Flamethrower would have been nice too, but I like Thunderbolt in this one. It was kind of a toss-up there. I felt like the ability to hit, Milotic just a little bit harder, and obviously Thunderbolt hits the Skarmory. I may tweak that, but I think we're gonna stick with Thunderbolt. I'll think about it. We may make a slight tweak before I start the match, but I do like Thunderbolt. So basically Stealth Rock, Soft Boiled, super bulky, leftovers, just meant to take hits, give me an opportunity to switch into some things. I could beat the Milotic because he can't Toxic Me because of Magic Guard, or he can, but it's not gonna do anything. I can hit the Skarmory pretty hard and just whittle his team down. This gives me a reliable switch into the Sneasel and things like that. It also could take hits from Infernape, which is quite nice, and hit him back with a Moonblast. So pretty nice set here, just standard Clefable, nothing too crazy there. We're gonna be rocking our Victory here, Victini, rocking a modest Choice Scarf set this week. U-turn, Blue Flare, Thunder, Psychic. Now, I was originally gonna run a Mixtini or a physical Victini, but I really like the Blue Flare. I felt like Blue Flare was gonna be better for this matchup than V-Create would be, because he does have a pretty fast team between Scolipede, Sneasel, Jolteon, and Infernape. A lot of fast things, so I didn't wanna rely on Victini after a speed drop. I'd rather have Victini around without the speed drop from V-Create. So I'm running Blue Flare and Psychic, and then U-turn for pivoting. Thunder obviously has a high chance to miss, more so than other moves, but we do have the Victory Star, which does boost Thunder's accuracy by 7%. So that brings it up to 77%. Sorry, it's early for me, but 77%. So we have about an 80% chance to hit a Thunder, which isn't terrible. Hopefully we can hit 2. It does 2 KO than Milotic after Stealth Rock, so something to keep in mind, but nevertheless, it's really there for the Milotic pretty much. Otherwise, we click Blue Flare or U-turn. Psychic is there just to get some chip damage on some other things too. It's safer to click, but that's that. Nothing too crazy there. Enough speed to outspeed modest Scarf Porygon Z. If he brings Timid Scarf, he's actually gonna outspeed us, but I wanted the extra power. Otherwise, we outpace his entire team, aside from Scolipede after a speed boost. So, good stuff there. Got our big wall breaker here, Havoc, rocking the Rocky MZ, Stone Edge Close Combat Substitute, Swords Dance, max speed to speed tie with the Infernape max attack to hit as hard as we can. I don't need Poison Jab on this thing for Bulu, because after a Swords Dance, we actually rip through Bulu. Close Combat plus Rocky MZ, Stone Edge does OHKO most variants of Bulu. We also can beat the Skarmory after a Swords Dance. We can set up, get a nice Stone Edge off or Rocky MZ into that. Once we break down the Milotic, we're actually gonna have a pretty good time too. We can set up on that, set up on the Goodra as well, which is kind of my thought process, being able to sit up on the Goodra, and also potentially the Uxie and stuff like that. So I really wanted Sub and Swords Dance. I really wanted to pair the two. I debated between Rock Polish as another option, but I think this should be my primary wall breaker, and then use Victini and another Pokemon to clean. So you'll see that here in a moment, but nothing too crazy here with Havoc. Pretty standard Terrakion set, so on and so forth. Here is our cleaner, baby. We've got our man Bro Sidon, king of the Broshin. He is ready to rock. He's got that Jolly Life Orb, Sheer Force, looking powerful as ever. Just enough speed to outspeed Bulu, max speed Bulu. I don't think he's gonna bring Jolly Bulu, but it wasn't a chance I was willing to take, because if he brings Jolly, like Jolly max speed, max attack Bulu, and he outsped my Feraligatr, I would be in some serious trouble. But I got Swords Dance, Aqua Jet, Ice Punch, Crunch. After an SD, we can rip through his team. In fact, once my Milotic is gone, Poseidon kind of wins. So that's kind of my focus. We really want to get that Swords Dance up, get rid of Milotic, and then sweep the team. Crunch is there, obviously, to hit a couple other things. You got the Ice Punch for Goodra, obviously can put some work in against the Skarmory. Aqua Jet beats the Infernape very nicely. Crunch, of course, for the Bulu. I'm sorry, Ice Punch for the Bulu. Crunch for things like Uxie and Sigilyph, and obviously just to hit a little harder on things like Milotic. Obviously, defense drop there could be pretty nice as well. The priority could come in handy against things like Scolipede as well if we need it. Now let's take a look at our like defensive core here. We've got Venemax here, our Toxapex, running Bold, Regenerator, Shuca Berry. Shuca Berry is the ground reduction berry, so I'm really banking on the fact that either Scolipede or Infernape is going to have Earthquake. I would be very surprised if he did not carry one of those. Really, Toxapex manages up against his team very, very well, aside from like a super like offensive Metal Plate or Banded. Bulu, I could take it on, but this switches into Infernape really well. It switches into Milotic, it switches into Goodra, it switches into like almost everything on his team pretty well. Unless he's got that Tech Earthquake on Scully, or he's running like Ground EMZ Infernape. So I want to be able to check that. Scald, Toxic, Haze, Recover, Haze to prevent being set up on, especially things with Infernape and Scolipede going for Sword Stances or Nasty Plots. I can shut those down. Toxic there to wear down things like the Milotic. And that actually brings me back to another point with the Victini. I didn't want to run Bolt Strike Victini because my plan is to Toxic the Milotic. I really want to wear that thing down. So obviously if it has Marvel Scale, Victini's Bolt Strike will do less. That's why I'm going with Thunder as well. So a bit of a weird choice, but that's kind of my logic there. Recover for longevity. Regenerator will get that health back. So Venemax is looking to wall some things in this matchup, and that should be pretty sweet. Definitely looking forward to this thing to act as a great defensive pivot. Switch it in, take a hit, and then double back out, get that Regenerator back, and get into a better Pokemon to handle the situation. And last but most certainly not least, we got Ron Burgundy. He's an Anchor Man, and he's rocking Rapid Spin, Anchor Shot, Power Whip, Earthquake, Assault Vest, Adamant, Steelworker, you know the dealio. This thing is really cool. It actually can take out the Infernape. It can 2-hit KO the Bulu. It can go for a huge Power Whip into the Milotic and knock that thing out. Anchor Shot prevents him from switching, which is really nice too, so it helps me make my predictions. It's also got basically triple stab, well, double stab because I'm not running a ghost type move, but this allows me to switch into the Infernape as well in terms of fighting type moves. I can take normal type moves from Porygon, which is quite nice, and also the EV spread I'm running is kind of interesting. I've got a lot of HP, a little bit of a good amount of attack, a little bit of defense, a little bit of special defense. Basically, the objective here is I know I can take like a Fire Blast, like a Life Orb Fire Blast from Infernape if you run special. I know I could take a couple of the big offensive hits. I know you could take like an Mega Horn from the Scolipede, things like that. So that's pretty much our defensive approach there. Now in terms of how we're gonna go about running through this team here, pretty simple stuff. I gotta get those rocks up right away. I've gotta try to get rid of that Milotic, and I gotta manage that Bulu situation because Tabu Bulu is a big, big threat. I need to make sure I'm very careful around that Infernape too. Its coverage options can be really, really devastating, especially if I make a misprediction and switch something into that Infernape and I make the wrong prediction on that. So I gotta be pretty careful around that Infernape. But otherwise, the objective is to just kind of whittle the team down, stealth rocks, use my defensive pivots, maybe make some nice plays there, hopefully get an opportunity to break some walls down with Terrakion, and then get my man Gator in there or Victini in for a sweep. Obviously, Scarf Victini, click Blue Flare could really decimate a lot of his team, especially if I can get rid of the Milotic and if he doesn't bring Goodra. If he does, he could bring Goodra though as a way to handle Victini as well, but I'm thinking he's probably going to just bulk up with the Milotic and hope that's enough. But if he's really, really concerned about Victini, he'll bring the Goodra as well. But nevertheless, that's why I've got Gator too. So we've got two really good options to try to win in terms of a sweep with Gator or Victini. Both of them can function really well. And then you've got Terrakion as the big wall breaker. A couple of defensive Pokemon that are kind of mixed in there. Some pseudo-defensive / offensive Pokemon. And feeling pretty good, guys. So that's going to be our team breakdown. We'll have our match up tomorrow, guys. So get excited for that. It's going down, man. Our first week of the season. I'm very, very hyped, guys. Thank you so much for checking out this video. Let me know your thoughts. That's going to be it for me, guys. My name is Dan. I'll also go by aDrive, and I'm going to catch you guys later. Peace.